Hi everybody, it's Kerrie here at the North East Autism Society, and today we're going to be talking about person-centred support. And I have with me the lovely Dr. Amy Pearson from Sunderland University. Hi Amy.
Hi.
Could you just tell us a little bit about what you do, Amy, just for people that haven't seen you before?
Yeah, so I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Sunderland and I do autism research. So I spend a lot of my time teaching students about developmental and social psychology, and in the rest of my job I do research into relationships for autistic people. So I look at the development of friendships and also quite a lot of research around something called mate crime. So victimization from familiar people, so that might be friends, family, rather bleak topic. And I also do research into autistic masking as well, so the hiding of autistic traits in order to kind of fly under the radar.
So you do lots and lots. That's busy days. Brilliant. So today we were going to just have a quick chat, Amy, about person-centered care, or person-centered planning. So what would you describe being person-centered as? What does that mean?
So it's essentially exactly what it says on the tin, which is placing the person at the center of all of their needs. So healthcare, education, kind of mental health care. So all of the things that individual needs, placing them at the center of it. So kind of encouraging someone and supporting someone to make their own decisions as much as possible, encouraging autonomy, independence, making sure they feel included and are included in decision-making processes, and empowering them to make those decisions as well, so they can really feel like an equal partner and like the driving force in their own lives.
Of course, yeah. So what would you say are the key ingredients, Amy, to effective person-centered support?
So I think taking into account what that individual wants, finding out what they value and what they think is important, what they feel like they need, and then looking for the best ways in order to support that. And I think one thing that some people often find difficult with this is what you think is good for somebody isn't necessarily going to be what that person wants. And as adults, it's one of those things that we encounter in our own daily lives really frequently. So I might want to have more than one glass of wine on a night, or eat pizza every night for dinner. And that might not be the best thing for me. It might not be really healthy. But as an adult, it's my decision to make. And it's exactly the same for someone who needs support with their daily living. They should still be able to have that level of autonomy within their daily decision making, even if you as a supporter don't necessarily think that's the thing that's best for them.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? Because I think sometimes it's about our own perspectives of what we think is the perfect life. I know, for example, my brother who has learning disabilities, he just wants a job. He wants a job as a cleaner. That is his lifelong ambition. And people around him are saying, "You don't want to do that, Lee. What do you want to do that for?" And he's saying, "That is what I want to do. I'm quite happy doing that. Leave me alone." And it's other people around him that are trying to give him these messages of, well, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? Well, no, I'm quite happy. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. So I think you're right. I think a lot of the time it's our assumptions, isn't it, that we put on to people. And we've got to take a step back, haven't we, because I think we talk about person-centered care or person-centered planning a lot across across the sectors that we work in. But I think it's about thinking about what is true person-centered care, because when you start to strip stuff back and start to actually reflect and think about what you're doing in your practice, are you actually placing that person at the heart of what you're doing? Do you feel the same around that, Amy? Or
yeah, no, I do. I think it's quite important. I think it's really important. And I think it is something that it kind of is easy to not necessarily forget, but that can become sidelined a little bit in trying to keep somebody safe. It becomes something that kind of goes on the back burner or maybe isn't prioritized as much. But by giving someone that feeling of autonomy and providing support for them to live independently, actually that can give them quite a lot of confidence in how they go about their daily lives. It can make them, again, feel a lot more autonomous in those decision-making processes. And that can really help their life, like, you know, move a lot more smoothly. I think like it can make things a lot easier, both for the person themselves and the people supporting them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, I think one of the other key ingredients is communication on the part of people supporting that person, because I've seen so many times where, you know, professionals haven't been speaking to each other and key parts have been missed of that
Yeah.
person's life that are really, really vital, aren't they? And I think that's something as professionals we need to consider is as well when we're writing reports and things. You know, when you put something down on paper, it's almost set in stone, and that label or that thing that you've wrote about that person follows them throughout their life. You know, I remember a little boy many years ago when I was only about 17. I was very young, first started working in the field, and he'd bitten somebody in a classroom, and he had been totally demonized. That label of being a biter followed him through his whole existence because it had been written down, you know. And
Yeah.
professionals have got to be really careful around that, haven't they?
They do, and I mean, we all have bad days. Everybody has a bad day, and that shouldn't be something that's used to kind of. It's the best way to say it, I guess, to remove personal freedom, in a way that actually makes life a lot more difficult for somebody. We all want compassion on our worst days and people to treat us with empathy, and something that is going to follow us for a really long time. Kids do things like bite people. Like, kids do that all the time.
Yeah, we just need to be really aware, I think, of it. It comes back to language again as well, the language that we're using. So do you see any what are the barriers then, Amy, to effective person-centered support?
So barriers will be things like making assumptions about what somebody needs, wants, so not really involving someone in those personal decisions, and making assumptions about capacity to make those decisions as well. So making assumptions about how much somebody understands or is capable of understanding, and that impacting on them. And again, as I was saying before, assuming that you know what's best for the person, more so than they do or what they want, those two things being combative and at odds. I think really listening to people, making sure you're listening to the person. And I've seen people say before they feel like someone just sees a learning disability, or a diagnosis, this label, they don't necessarily see the person. Making sure that if you're giving them information, or providing people with, decisions that they need to make, the information's there in a really accessible format. So it's there that they can understand, that people feel listened to and believed when they ask for something or request something, and supported with the kind of decisions they make, and that they feel like they have control as well. Like, most people have a desire to be in control of their own lives and to be able to make those decisions. So being able to provide information for somebody to make their own decisions and support them in that decision making process, I think that's the best thing that we can do.
Yeah. And I think for maybe autistic people that don't use verbal language as well, it's about finding out the tools that they need to be able to communicate. I think that's really important, isn't it? And not assuming that because they don't use verbal language, they don't have the ability to tell us their thoughts, feelings and wishes. I think that's really important, because sometimes I think we miss that a little bit. So that was me and Amy talking about person-centered care. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks, bye everybody.